Coming up on the PEDcast, this month I'm in Vienna for the EGU and we talk about the opportunities for early career researchers. Nick Skinner from Poppyfish People Development suggests tips for great presentations. IUSS President Ratan Lau talks about the glamour of soil science. And the early bird catches the worm. But how many worms are there? Jackie Stroud shows us an easy way to find out. Hello and welcome to the PEDcast. This month coming from Vienna in Austria. Now this park may sound quite serene and peaceful, but believe it or not, just across the road, the EGU is taking place, one of the largest geoscience conferences in the world. The EGU brings together geoscientists from all over the world to a meeting covering all aspects of Earth, planetary and space sciences. It's a forum where scientists can present their work and discuss their ideas with experts in all fields of geoscience. One of the greatest aspects of the EGU General Assembly is the focus on early career scientists. But with over 15,000 people attending the event, the first day for an early career researcher can feel quite overwhelming.
I'm Olivia. I am the Communications Officer for the European Geosciences Union. I guess my first advice is just take a breath. Make sure you relax, make sure you go outside, because it is daunting, but this assembly is essentially for the early career scientists and for you, so you make it however you want it to be. There's no requirement for the assembly. There's no set of rules on how to go to a conference. But that being said, there are some really great resources for early career scientists at the assembly and throughout the year as well.
I'm Stephanie. I'm a postdoc at Herod University, but at EGU I am the Early Career Scientist representative for all of EGU, which means I represent the early career scientists and the early career scientist representatives on division level at the council. And with that role I'm also actually part of the outreach committee at EGU. What I really like about the General Assembly is this mix of science and short courses. And I think there's not many conferences actually I've been to that has this focus on becoming a well-rounded scientist. Obviously the science is important, but there are lots of skills you also need to make sure that you are successful. So I think the short course opportunities, the variety from skills development, career development, science communication is really great.
And of course, there is one familiar comfort at the EGU, the use of social media.
Definitely. We are very active on many social media channels and blogs as well as mailing lists. But it's great because, there are so many ways for early career scientists and scientists just to get information about what's happening for the conference, updates on what's going on, and also just what's happening with the EGU outside the assembly as well.
So if you're thinking about attending, what should you do?
If you have an opportunity to contact some people before the General Assembly, either through social media actually or through an email, and maybe arrange to meet up with them, that normally works really well. But also if you're not quite sure, then there's, if you find out who your division early career scientist representative is, you can always get in touch with them. Or then obviously get in touch with me. I'm always happy to answer questions or point people in the right direction. The other one would be to see who else is scoring that you maybe know and ask them for tips and tricks. But I think the General Assembly is an opportunity to step out of your comfort zone. Don't just hang out with your lab buddies, don't just hang out with the other PhD students and postdocs you know. Go to some of the events that are particularly organised for early career scientists. So on Tuesday we had the Great Debate, or the Early Career Scientist Great Debate, which was fantastic because there was a really mixed group of people at each table, and then you never know, you might meet someone that turns out to be a future collaborator. So basically definitely use this opportunity to talk to people outside your comfort zone and outside your research fields.
And what about after the General Assembly? What does the EGU do for early career scientists?
Our website, we try to highlight the most of what is available to our early career scientists, and so whether that is just job boards looking for opportunities for their next steps, or certain, if they're sole prospective students looking for certain courses or programs that they would be interested in getting involved with, and just resources, online resources for how to be happy and healthy, successful early career scientists. And we also have a really active network of early career scientist representatives, Stephanie being the union-wide one, who really work both at the Assembly and throughout the year to meet ECS needs and to be a voice for our ECS community. And since the European Geosciences Union is a bottom-up organization, their voices are really being heard. We really pride ourselves in listening and responding to people.
There were over 4,500 oral presentations at the EGU this year, but what makes a good presentation? I've been speaking to Nick Skinner from Poppyfish People Development.
So we see lots of presentations that are fairly quite dull and statistically based, and for me as a non-scientist, and I know actually this is true for scientists as well, the best presentations are the ones that really engage me and light a spark in my head. And these only come when people really tell me a story, when they tell me the why that they're doing something, not the what. So I don't necessarily need to know that a 1% change in the precipitation levels will lead to a 0.01% change in the infant mortality rate. But what I do want to know is actually if there's a story there about how it's changed this person's life and they've lost their child as a consequence of it, you're really telling me the impact of what this work is all about. And the best presentations are able to actually tell you that story right from the heart. And so therefore it's there's a guy on TED, if you're a great fan of TED Talks, Simon Sinek talks about the power of why. Don't tell me what you do, tell me why you do it, and then you become much more engaging. And if you go to symposia or other events where scientists are presenting, think about the ones that you remember the most. They're the ones that have got the emotional content, they're the ones that tell you a story, they're the ones that have got a real spark about them. So I'd like to see more of that in scientists. I think the best scientists do that really well.
Now, if you couldn't attend the EGU in Vienna this month, fear not, there are many soil science events happening all over the place in the next couple of months.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Lean. I'd like to talk to you about NERC's Operation Earth. I work for the Soil Security Programme and will be at the Natural History Museum from the 29th to the 31st of May between 11 in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you want to know why soil is important to you, come along, talk to us and we'll explain the ABC of soil.
Also coming up in the next couple of months are some BS Cube regional meetings. On May the 9th, the Midlands Soil Discussion Group will be examining the link between soils and geology with a tour through the British Geological Survey's core store. The theme of the meeting is Soil Resource Conservation and Sustainable Management, and is free to all BS Cube members. For non-members, there is a charge of £15, which includes lunch and refreshments. On May the 17th, the South West Soil Discussion Group will be looking at soil structure on heavy soils. This takes place in Biggin in Somerset and is free to members. For non-members, there is a fee of £10 and lunch will be provided. Those wishing to go should bring sturdy shoes and clothes appropriate for the weather. And on the 7th of June, there's an informal sea soil meeting at Hendred Farms in East Hendred, bringing together farmers and researchers to exchange ideas, research and practices on soil management in agricultural systems. Everyone is welcome, but please come prepared to discuss topics like soil carbon and nutrient management. It's free for members and £15 for non-members, and lunch and refreshments will be provided. For more details or to book onto any of these events, please go to the BSQ website.
Is soil science glamorous? Sometimes when you're knee-deep in mud, it may not feel like it. Here's Ratan Lal, the president of the IUSS, with his thoughts on the glamour of soil science.
Pedospheric processes, significant to global issues and basic to the well-being of the humanity and functioning of nature, are increasingly being addressed by ecologists, geographers, engineers, chemists, physicists, plant physiologists, physicians, economists, landscape architects, sociologists, and those neither directly affiliated with soil science nor belonging to accredited faculty of soil science. This trend may either be due to the attraction of the glamour of soil science or to the perception that soil scientists do not have the technical or logistical capacity to address these complex issues. The latter hypothesis may be supported by the continuous decline of enrollment in undergraduate and graduate soil science classes. While the interdisciplinary approach to an issue of global significance is highly desirable, a thorough understanding of the complex properties and processes of soil science is also essential for an effective program. Being an inherently complex natural body with ever-changing and highly dynamic properties and processes, science of soil must be practiced and professed by those who not only are professionally trained but are also intellectually stimulated and perpetually intrigued by the soil and its impacts on other ecospheres such as hydrosphere, biosphere, lithosphere, ecosphere, anthrosphere, and of course the atmosphere. The low and declining enrollment in soil-oriented classes is a double-edged sword because revenue generated from the tuition fee is also a strong determinant of the allocation of resources to a soil-related program. Thus, ever-dwindling soil science faculty are gripped by the vicious cycle of being always in search of the financial support for their projects. Further, the educated population of even the technologically advanced nations, such as that in the United States, is increasingly being disconnected from soil, an entity which is the essence of our terrestrial life. Thus, the glamour of soil science must be strong enough to attract the best and the brightest in this profession, so that the issues can be addressed effectively, not only ongoing concerns such as accelerated soil erosion, food security, but also the emerging issue, including climate change, water quality and renewability, biodiversity, space exploration, urban soil, human health, hydromorphic soil, and of course the anthrosoils, the soils artificially being created. The awareness about the importance of soil science must be enhanced for the most basic resource and essential to all life in the terrestrial biosphere. A new thinking and an innovative strategy are needed to enhancing the glamour of soil science profession so that humanity may exist in harmony with nature. Rabindranath Tagore, an Indian poet and a philosopher, stated that emancipation from bondage of the soil is no guarantee of freedom, even for a tree. Thank you and have a very nice month.
What can you do in 60 minutes? Sometimes here at the EGU it's nice to take a stroll around this park, perhaps go on that train. Counting worms though, is not always high up on the list.
But Jackie Stroud, a NERC Soil Science Fellow, has all the time for earthworms. She says they are great indicators of soil health, and has launched a nationwide survey.
So everything I have here is what you need to do 60-minute worms. I've got the booklet and a pen. I've got a fork to dig the soil pits, and I use a fork because you chop less worms in half and thus get better worm counts. The size of the pit we're aiming for is 20 centimetres, so I have a ruler and I use a trowel for fine tuning. Then when I'm sorting through the soil that I've got from my pit, I put all the worms into a pot with a lid to stop them escaping. And then when it comes to identification, a little bit of water can be helpful just to rinse the worms and help with ID. Now, optional extras include a knee pad for comfort, and I always like to have a timer and only spend 5 minutes sorting through the soil to find the earthworms in order to achieve 10 soil pits in an hour.
Found 11 worms in this pit. No worm has a saddle, so no further measurements are recorded from this pit. 21 worms in this soil pit, and separated the adults from the juveniles. Now these are the juveniles and they have no saddle. So although you can get some quite large earthworms, size doesn't mean it's an adult. What we're looking for is the presence of a saddle. Small red worms with a distinctive saddle are recorded as type 1 epigeic. They're litter dwelling and their important roles are in carbon cycling and food for native birds. Green or pale worms with a distinctive saddle are recorded as type 2 endogeic. They're topsoil dwelling earthworms with a distinctive saddle near the head, and these are the two most common species found in arable fields, usually quite abundant. And they have important roles in aggregating the soil and nutrient mobilisation for plants. Large dark worms with a distinctive saddle are recorded as type 3 anesic. These large worms play important roles in forming deep burrows for plant roots and water infiltration, and their saddle is found near the head.
And we'll be talking to Jackie Stroud in a future PEDcast about why earthworms are so important for our soils.
That's about the end of the EGU for 2018, and people are now starting to leave to go back on their individual flights around the world to their home countries. That time I left too, and that's the end of our PEDcast for this month. If you've got any comments, queries, questions, anything you want to see in the next feature, do email me, student@soils.org.uk. Until the very next time, perhaps till we meet again, perhaps here in Vienna. From me, Daniel Evans. Bye bye.